It's January. We're right in the middle of another month of football. But before we get to talking about games again, it's time for a deep dive. Alongside me, I've got James Cunliffe, the Lutonian journalist, and we've got a very, very special guest for this episode. And we'll reveal who it is after this intro.
Can you believe it? We are Premier League! Yes!
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls. We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to our January deep dive episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. That special guest is the Luton Town chairman, David Wilkinson. Wilko, thanks for joining us again.
Nice to see you.
You did say that you was going to come back and see us when we had you on at the start of the season. At the start of the season, you wasn't sure about Premier League football and Premier League life. Are you enjoying it a lot more now?
Yeah, I am. I wasn't sure beforehand because, after 10 years of winning most things, I wasn't sure that I was going to enjoy losing most things, which was what we expected to do, I suppose. And the first couple of games were I suppose, didn't change my thoughts very much. At Brighton, we were taken apart rather, weren't we? Mm. And Chelsea a bit similar. But since then, apart from Aston Villa and probably Brentford, we've been in every game, and it's been exciting. I mean, I think every game you feel proud of the way you've performed, and each game it's sort of improved the way I've enjoyed it. And it's not always true about the stadiums. I've been disappointed with some of that. I mean, I was really looking forward to going to Brighton, and I was disappointed with it because it was soulless. And then, I think, as we were saying earlier, in Old Trafford too, which I was really looking forward to going to. And I'm just hoping that Liverpool is up to standard, up to scratch, because that's the one I'm looking forward to most next. The one, Liverpool and Newcastle.
There's just been no atmospheres in these away games, has there?
Apart from us.
Absolutely.
Our fans have been amazing.
I mean, we're getting criticised from the outside world for giving players standing ovations after they've lost and things, but if we didn't give them a standing ovation, there'd be no noise in the ground at all. It'd be, it's just ridiculous how quiet some of these places are. But on the pitch, Wilko, have we surprised you in any way? I mean, from a fan's point of view, obviously, not with your chairman's hat on, but with your fan, are you surprised by how well we're doing?
As a fan, I'm surprised. I don't know whether surprised is the right word.
Yeah, I've not used the right word, have I?
I'm really impressed with the improvement that so many players have had. I mean, if you look at where Alfie's got to, and actually everybody. I can't think of anybody that he hasn't improved out of all recognition. And then the sort of players that you weren't sure about initially, like Ross, like Andros, because you weren't sure, because they're not our typical type. They're not young players coming forward. They've done it. And the fact they've done it and come to us and have performed so brilliantly is that's what's so exciting. I think that's what's making it more enjoyable, even if we don't win a game.
Are there some standout moments that have taken your fancy? Because I think we spoke to you last after the West Ham games. It wasn't too far into the season and it was a bit stop-start, and it kind of is that now because we're in this international break. But there's been a decent amount of football half the season.
I'm trying to remember what my favourite games were. I think Arsenal probably, and Liverpool, and Everton away. But that's more about atmosphere and excitement of beating them and the rest of it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? At the time, we hadn't won a game, so that sort of plays its role. But there's been some great performances and some great wins since.
They have, and we're still improving. And that's the exciting thing, is how far can we get? How much more can we improve?
That is the real exciting thing. It's the Chong goal for me. I mean, I don't think
That
I've ever.
was something else,
I'm not
yeah.
the most athletic person in the world, but I don't think I've ever leapt higher than when that ball hit the back of the net. I mean, I didn't quite get to the roof, but I was very close. I think the roof came off. Otherwise, I would have got to the roof. It was just a magical moment. Wasn't it? Just the goal itself, actually, so much quality involved in the goal. Yeah. But to suddenly be leading Liverpool, you know, the mighty Liverpool. I mean, me and James grow up of an era where Liverpool were the team in this country.
Yeah.
To be leading them on a level playing field, having gone through everything that we'd gone through, it was just a magical, whatever it was, 15 minutes. Ultimately, agonising that we didn't hang on, but we had that moment, and it's just, whatever happens, we've got that moment. It's just brilliant.
And not many others have got that, have they, this year, to be fair?
No, there's hardly any teams in this league that have led Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City at home this season. Okay, we've only taken 1 point from that, but let's be realistic. 1 point's probably 1 point more than most would have expected us to take from those games. But just the way that we've taken those three teams in particular on just shows me that whatever, you know, that we're not scared of anyone.
It was only one against City, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just, and these teams are beating all these other teams out of sight, and we're in all of these games. It's just, as a Luton fan, just so proud of all the efforts that everyone's putting in.
It's extraordinary. It's great to watch. That's the thing too, because some of the improvement. I mean, watching Alfie and Ross particularly. I mean, Ross has been extraordinary, hasn't he?
I mean, we have to talk Ross Barkley, don't we?
It's our annual, our weekly section on Ross Barkley. We call it the Ross Barkley Appreciation Podcast. Really.
We really do need to. I mean, first of all, I remember when we signed him, and yes, there was all the doubts because of, you know, his history with injuries and how his career seemingly from the outside faded and everything. And also, as you mentioned a minute ago, he's not really a Luton type. He's not a young player who we can improve and everything else, or so we thought. How did that one come about? How did Luton go from winning the Championship playoffs to thinking, I know, Ross Barkley, he'll do for our central midfield? How do we go from where we were to attracting a world-class superstar of Barkley's ilk?
You know, I don't really know. I mean, I think it came through Rob, and I think it was, you know, it's down to him that we got him, and he obviously persuaded him that he could get playing again with us. And of course, one thing about playing for Luton is he's going to play. You know, he's not going to be sitting on the sidelines and getting frustrated and stuff, which is what he's done. And every game he's got better, hasn't he? I mean, the early, you know, there was the jury was out in the first couple of games, wasn't it, before he got fit? And he worked so hard to get fit. I remember going down to the training ground, and he was in the gym all by himself, working like mad. And you know, I think that's really great to see, because he's obviously wanted it. He loves playing football, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Where he is a Luton player, though, is he's so humble.
Yeah.
He's not, you know, he's every right to be, I'm far too good for Luton Town.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's fitted in. He's, you know, one of the team. He just loves doing his thing. Obviously, the boys love rallying around him as well. And I can't speak highly enough of him.
No. Andros is the same. Andros is wonderful with the squad. And because both of them, it's great that they've got the experience they've got, which can rub off on some of the younger players too.
And of course, Andros came here just to play football, didn't he? He wasn't even bothered. I mean, he's been out in the media and he said the deal didn't bother him in the slightest. He just wanted to play football. I mean, but the way that these two players who play for England, they've done everything in the game, speak about our football club, it just says everything about how it's run behind the scenes, really, and how good it is that these two guys who have no affinity to Luton other than the fact that, you know, you're paying their wages now, just they've fallen in love with it. They're part of us.
Oh, it must be. A lot of it's got to be down to Rob, hasn't it? Because he's such a great character and he's so warm, you know, and what's the word? His one-to-one stuff with players is amazing. And I think must be down to that, because he cares about the individual players, not just the group, you know. And Ross, I mean, I've what have I been doing, 60 years or something coming to this? I've never seen a player like him playing for Luton.
See, that was going to be James's next question.
Sorry.
Wasn't it?
Sorry.
Yeah, where does he rank?
Well, I've never seen anyone better.
Because it's an ongoing debate with the younger generation who have maybe started supporting Luton in the lower leagues. they've come up and they've seen many great players that they've loved, but then they get to the Premier League and suddenly Ross Barkley's there and he's the best player they've ever seen. But that's because of their age. But then the older crowd would say, no, it's still definitely Ricky Hill. And that's the sort of battle between them. But you would have seen.
I think they were different players. I mean, Ricky was more sort of on the ball. He wasn't so much of a quarterback, was he? I don't think, as Ross, or the way we've seen Ross, because that's what shows most, isn't it? His long passing ability and his control on the ball is just phenomenal. I don't know. Ricky wasn't in my prime, but I saw him enough, and I still think Ross would be the best.
There you have it.
So it's a big call. I suppose what's really interesting at the whole beginning of the Ross Barkley thing is that we're now in the Premier League. The eyes of the world are on this league and every club, and anyone makes a tiny move and it's everywhere, all over the news, all over the world.
Yeah.
Somehow you managed to convince Ross Barkley to come and no one knew about it.
No, I know.
It's remarkable.
Even us. But no, it's extraordinary. And again, it's down to, Rob and the way I mean, it's not just that, is it? The way he's brought other players through. As Alfie's one that in point, he's the one who's improved perhaps the most. And it's got to be down to, Rob and the rest of the coaches and the best of the squad. Because, they are what makes it tick.
I'm not going to ask personal details of everything on this podcast, but can we confirm that Ross Barkley is a Luton player beyond this season in terms of his contract?
I can't see any reason why not.
That'll do us. That will do us. That puts to bed the fact that he's out of contract in the summer anyway. And hopefully he's a Luton player for a long, long time, because we're all absolutely loving watching him. And I think he'll keep us up in the Premier League. I don't know what you think about our survival chances. We'll come on to potential possible deductions and everything later on in this podcast, but just footballing results. Are you confident that we've got enough to stay in this league?
We have got, on paper, we've got an easier second half at home, haven't we? So that's the chance, I think. We've played most of the top clubs at home. So, we've always got a chance. And it's not that far away, is it?
No.
Was there a sense that obviously you would have to get used to the league because there's a huge gulf now between the Championship and the Premier League, that maybe the first half of the season was that testing ground, and that the second half, if you could get it right, which seems to be the momentum at the moment, that the second half could be a lot better?
Well, the football's changed, hasn't it? I mean, we're making more chances and we're going for it more than we did in the early part of the season. So yeah, I guess it's like anything. Experience is what counts, isn't it? I mean, for Rob too, because Rob hadn't managed in the Premier League apart from briefly, didn't he, for the up down the road, but not really. So, I think it should keep going.
I think in recent seasons as well, we've tended to play better in the second half of a season than the first anyway, haven't we? We were kind of nowhere in the Championship when Rob came in last season. I say nowhere in terms of where we finished. And Rob propelled us to the area that we were, and sort of even the seasons that we went well under Nathan, or even John Steele going back to that conference winning side, that took 10 games or so to fire up the cylinders and everything. It just seems to be, we sort of learn as we go along in each season. And I guess that's the improvement that all of the coaches, not just Rob, but the ones that have preceded him, we hire coaches that can improve the people out on the training pitch.
And also, I guess everyone's aware that you're getting closer to a deadline, so you've got to be a bit more pushy towards it, haven't you? Because you can run out of games quite quickly, and particularly in this league, because they do disappear, don't they?
And they do, but then you have a bloody break and they don't come along for it.
I hate the breaks personally, but
by the time we play Brighton, it'll have been one game in a whole calendar month, and you're like, we just had one with 7 games in it, and now you got one with 1 in it. I'm like, what is going on here? But no, I agree with you, Wilko. I really think we're going in the right line, and I think there's 2 or 3 teams that are sliding in the opposite direction that we can sort of overtake on the way up. And
well, you think they are, and then they don't.
That is the thing. Yeah, they have a game against a Man United or someone that you think, oh, Man United are going to win that. They'll do us a favour, and then they lose, and you're like, oh, bloody hell, Man United. You had one job, so to speak, and it is what it is. But
it was pretty narrow result. Was it the other day on Brentford and Notts Forest? That was Nottingham Forest. That was a
I'm watching
last minute change.
I'm watching so many games in this league, and I'm flip flopping between who I want to win and draw, and what's this? What result's good for us, and what result isn't good for us, and it's just an absolute. It's a bit of a nightmare. But no, I'm really confident that we're going to stay in this league and continue to flourish, particularly with the calibre of player that we've got in the side.
Yeah, what's fascinating me is the sort of recent development actually, and we haven't seen enough games like we've just said in the last month to see more of it, but they're now becoming more of a possession team against Chelsea, and in the last game had the most amount of possession, and that's a very fascinating steep progression from where we were, even from playing in the Championship when quite happily play without the ball and win on the counter and stuff, but they can do that and still.
Well, I guess again we can do that because we've got players that have improved so much, and people like Ross and Andros who are good in possession, aren't they? So, and first touch is so much better, isn't it, than it has been in the past. I mean, that's Premier League football, isn't it? Really, his first touch and pace, and we've got both, haven't we?
Yeah, that's the thing we picked up on the podcast early in the season. You give the ball to the opposition, they don't give it back very quickly, do they? It's not a fair game in that regard. Once you give it to them, it's a bloody pain in the ass to get it back off.
Mostly in their half, though.
Well, that is true. Yeah, they do pass people to sleep in this league, don't they? That is true. We've said that we've probably got enough to stay up, but we are in January, so I do need to pick your brains to see if Rob has been with a shopping list to improve the squad in any way in January. Has he come along with any numbers?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm aware that we've got a couple of possibilities, but no more than that. There was no pressure at all. I think if anyone was available that could improve the squad, then I think that we'd have a go. But it's a horrible window. It's not one anyone likes. We normally make mistakes in this window. I think most people do because it's done it out of desperation. But I think there are a couple of people. They've always the team have always got their eye out for improvements in the squad. But there's nothing firm and nothing that I know about that's actually happening at the moment.
We struck gold in this month last year, didn't we, when Marvellous came to the club? And, if there's another one of them in the last week before the transfer window closes, we'll all be happy with that. Outward-wise, is there any sort of anything that you can tell us? Players going out?
I've seen the rumours, which I don't. I've seen the rumours.
Okay, that's absolutely fair enough.
There's one sort of saga that seems to have calmed down, that's been going on for a long while, which was this situation where we know that the club went over to Ecuador to scout a few players, and Oscar Zambrano was one young Ecuadorian that seemed to be in the news, and Rob continually said not really much in that, whereas their sporting director and manager was always mentioning Luton Town. Not that I could speak Spanish, but I always heard the Luton Town in.
I think we went to look at him. The scouts went out there, and I think they might have talked about it, but they could never get a deal done, so nothing was done. And then that was some time ago. I think it was all over. But I think they had a look. They had a bit of interest, but there's a lot of players they go and look at.
Yeah,
doesn't mean anything very much.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going over all the way to look at one player, may as well look at some
others. I think they did.
But I mean, that in itself is a very interesting turn of events for Luton Town, isn't it? Where
got to send Phil out to
the supermarket's a lot bigger and a lot further afield now than it ever used to be, I suppose.
That's true.
Must be very interesting to be expanding in that way.
It's true. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, as I say, I don't get involved in that. Mick didn't go, did he? It was just Phil. So,
how's his Spanish?
I don't know. I don't know.
Clearly not good if he didn't bring the player back with him. I know
Certainly nothing came to the board from it. We knew that it was happening, but nothing came to us for any decisions or anything. So,
Well, I noticed he's been linked with most clubs in the Premier League, and he's still at the club that he was at. So can't be too much doing in that regard. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it for transfers. Really, we'll wait and see what happens. Normally,
it's not long to wait, is there?
No, it's not. We kind of pride ourselves on coming out of any window stronger than we went into it, and I've no reason to believe that that's going to be any different this time around. We've obviously already made one signing, Tom Holmes. We've given him back to Reading. That's another. That's very
Good
much
one.
much a Luton signing. That
That's
one,
the
isn't
way,
it?
yeah.
Young, hungry, ready to prove, and
We've got a few more out as well who are doing. Some of them doing quite well. So
yeah, I saw rave reviews
John
with Joe.
McAtee and
Saw rave reviews with Joe Taylor,
Taylor
at the weekend.
the other day.
Absolutely. So yeah, sure that we'll be in a much stronger position next Wednesday night than we are this Wednesday night as we're recording this one.
It's just not. It's not. It's been quite a quiet window generally in football, I think, and it tends to be that way in January. But I don't like it either. There's just a lot of rumour and conjecture, and people getting frustrated that a rumour hasn't happened when it never really.
But it's sort of set up for Sky to have a deadline, isn't it? Really,
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Other than Sky TV and agents, do anyone win in January?
I don't think so.
No. That's always been my philosophy of it as well. I mean, Sky, they give it the large one on deadline day, don't they? They have all the big presenters in, all the big boys. They have the reporters outside the grounds, all guessing at what's happened. And every now and again, someone like Odin Wingy will turn up and sit outside, and Harry Redknapp will pull his car window down and things like that. But, I mean, come on, lads, let's get a life if that's what excites you.
And in the past, we might have had the odd loan, mightn't we? But you can't, because there's only 2 allowed in the Premier League. So unless they're foreign, but then we're stuck. So there's nothing you can do. We can't do, and most other people have probably got the loans they need or loans they can have.
Is there anything Oh, sorry, you go.
One lone player that we've all quickly fell in love with is Sambi Lokonga, who's come along. Obviously had an injury which prevented us from seeing him for a lot more games, but he's come in and fitted in really well.
Yeah.
I know he's on loan, but just to play devil's advocate, if Arsenal said, give us 7 million and you can have Sambi Lokonga, would you be able to?
I'm sure we'd be able to. Whether we want to or not, I don't know. You have to ask the boss.
It's a good answer. It is a good answer. Let's move away from transfers then, because as I say, we're always stronger coming out of a window than we are going in it, and I've no reason to believe that'll be different. Can we look at? Should we look at the accounts? Not look at the accounts.
Get the book.
Yeah. No, let's not look at the accounts. Can we talk the accounts? I don't want to go into minutiae detail with all of this because there's confidentiality and there's all sorts of things. But
also, we did talk about it in the last podcast as well, but, from our point of view. But
yeah, we'll get a little bit of official clarification if we can. First and foremost, there's some startling numbers. It's unexpected numbers, sorry, shall we say that, in terms of the size of 1 or 2 of the numbers on there, the wages sort of being one of them, the overall loss and things like that. Can we just, first of all, from broadly, there's nothing for Luton fans to worry about with regards to the accounts. It's just, as we said last week, the way that the dates have fallen on everything in terms of ins and outs.
Well, it's partly that, and it's partly enormous cost of promotion without the offset. So you haven't had the benefit, but you've had the cost. So in terms of player wages and in terms of groundworks and all the rest of it, has to go into. It's an accounting thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a timing of accounts. It's not the actual situation. It's not like if it was cash, it would be a completely different look to it. So no, there's nothing to worry about at all.
Excellent. One of the figures that was in there that jumped off the page at everyone was the wages. Can I just clarify, we're not actually paying that as an annual sum, are we? There's promotion bonuses or certain bonuses that have been triggered that have made that figure what it was for that calendar year. Sorry, for that accounting year.
I can't remember what it was.
It was probably went up by about £10 million or something daft like that from the previous season. You didn't jump your wage bill up by 10 million quid, did you?
It's going to be a lot more than it was last year. It's Premier League. I mean, it's Premier League wages.
But for the accounts that have just come out, that would have been
No, that would be
a lot of that.
Most of that is
figures,
just bonuses.
Bonuses, yeah, that's
promotion bonuses.
That's pretty much what we thought. And then, of course, you just touched on it as well. The added costs that were on there is the bobber stand basically would have had 5 weeks worth of work in that account year.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying you don't get Premier League funding through until July? Is that or somewhat beyond 30th of June? Sorry.
I thought it was more likely August.
So none of the Premier League income will have been included in those accounts that you just released.
That's right.
So that's pretty much exactly how we said it in the last podcast then, James.
Clever boys then, aren't we?
Nothing to worry about and all in good hands. Obviously, I bring it up because FFP is suddenly a real important thing at the moment.
And you guys, anyway, by the way, are shareholders, as you know, so you get pretty instant look. I know Les gets an instant look, a pretty instant look at them, and access to Tom whenever he wants it. So if he's got any queries, he can get those responded to.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think there was anything to worry about. I just wanted to clarify a couple of sort of, as I say, Luton fans just aren't used to the size of numbers that are that we're dealing with now. No, I can imagine. Absolutely.
Both ways.
I can imagine.
Well, also, if you're just not used to accounts, and I'm pretty financially thick myself, so there'll be plenty out there that singing from the same hymn sheet as me that don't quite understand it. Just need it explained a little bit more.
Yep. So overall, nothing to worry about. Literally, as we said in that last podcast, it's just the way the dates have fallen and when the income has come in comparison to when the cost is.
Yep.
The cost came the second that penalty was missed, and the income's come some way down the line, basically, hasn't it, in layman's terms? So
that's right.
That's all fine. One of the things that we're doing at Kenilworth Road is introducing safe standing in the Oak Road end.
Yeah, isn't that great?
It is actually, isn't it? Because I mean, I've sat in the Oak Road end before, and
our own design.
Oh, is that right?
Gary was involved in the design of the system.
Am I right in saying it increases the capacity?
Yes, I think. I mean, again, I think it brings us up to close to 12.
Oh, okay.
I think it adds 750, something like that.
Oh,
and in time, that's going to be the whole of the Oak Road, isn't it?
Eventually, so it won't be immediate.
I think initially it's just the away bit first, isn't it? And then
because I think are we 11.3 now? I think it's 11.3, and I think it takes us up to close to 12.
So we're definitely above Bournemouth in that regard, then, aren't we? Because they're something like 11.4, aren't they? So
yeah,
all of that nonsense that gets peddled that we're the smallest ground in the league that can pipe down.
Who cares?
Well, indeed, it might be the smallest ground in the league, but it's definitely the best ground in the league, and that's all.
Someone voted it, didn't I see? Someone voted it the least atmosphere in the whole of the Premier League. Can you believe that?
Hey, it must have been a deaf person. That's all I can say. It's
unbelievable.
Not good. Just on the safe standing, I'm a massive fan of it. I have to admit, some of the away games I've been to where we've safe standing in Brentford being one, there was plenty of it at Old Trafford as well. Chelsea as well. I just think it's much better. I just think, you don't want to be restricted to a seat, really. Obviously, if you can't stand, then that's different. But
you can sit in.
But you can sit in the thing,
anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but if you don't want to be restricted to a seat, you don't have to be. And I think certainly away from home, it just gets the atmosphere going so much easier, I think.
Well, the last I heard was 25% of the new stadium will be safe standing.
And presumably the safe standing that we install at Kenilworth Road will just transfer to Power Court.
I'm not, I mean, if we can, it will. I don't know whether it, I'm never sure whether it can, because it depends on, but if it will transfer, we will transfer it, like some of the seating as well.
So when you say this is Gary's own design, is this like
No, he had the idea of
a new patent?
Well, it's the same idea,
right.
but with I think it was with ready-made parts, if you like. So it was assembled. He invented the assembling, which is a lot cheaper than if you go and buy it assembled. If you know what I mean. If that makes any sense, does it?
So it's not like IKEA. We've actually got the finished product rather than the boxes.
No.
Well, I hope
you'll
he
see
trademarked that.
I've only seen one seat like it because I haven't seen the rest yet. But
No, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, no, I'm in favour of it as well. Same as you.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's to.
Well, everybody stands there anyway, so
Well, you have to. There's no leg room.
I know.
Snow White's friends must have built that stand back in the day. That's all I can say.
Well, we were in director's box the other day, which is exactly the same. I couldn't get in without doing the splits.
It is good that it's in. I believe actually some of it's in there now.
Yeah.
So the away fans that go into the Brighton game, they'll have.
I haven't seen it
for
yet,
that
but
game.
it is. Yeah.
And I think I read the aim is to have the home side of the Oak Road done by the Manchester United home game next month.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in the Oak Road, obviously you've already been sent your email and told what's happening, but only 2 more home games until you can safely stand, or officially safely stand, in the Oak Road, and that'll be fantastic just to improve the atmosphere even more.
Yeah. It's been pretty good though, hasn't it? I mean, it's one thing I think I said this one before. One thing I could never understand at Sheffield United is that they muffle the away end.
Yeah.
But what you don't want that, do you? You want as much noise as you can get from the away end, because it then livens everybody else up. But
I mean, all they were doing was booing and everything anyway that particular afternoon, wasn't it? But
that's true.
You know, and then their players responded by scoring a couple of goals for us, which was very nice of them. Very nice indeed.
It was.
Where should we go next?
Well, if we're talking stadium improvements, we should maybe have a little word on Power Court.
Why not? Power Court. Many a person has come up to me and, you know, said that things have gone quiet on Power Court, and that's not true. Lots of work is still going on Power Court. There's just nothing.
They're working all hours God sends on it.
Just nothing has changed in terms of what we can reveal.
They're finalising the design for detailed planning, and I believe that UK Power Networks are starting work on moving the substation. Which is what's delayed everything.
Yeah,
it's been the substation being in the way, and then disagreements between them and Network Rail and all those sorts of things. But it's now the workers, and it's not just the substation; it's also all the cabling, and they've got to decide because the cabling goes around the town through Power Court, and that's got to be shifted to make room for certain of the pitch or whatever else. So all of that delays things a bit. But as far as I know, they're very close to getting detailed planning approval sought.
And then once we've got that detailed plan in full steam ahead, and
I think they can start work on the groundworks now. In fact, some has been, moving. Yeah, they're moving some earth around and stuff.
I was going to say, I was down in that area of town earlier on, and there were people in there. I mean, I didn't pop in and stop them and ask them what they were doing. I never like to stop a workman when he's working, because you go past all these roadworks and things and no one's ever working. So when you actually see one working, you make sure you
they've done a lot of boreholes and stuff like that as well, to see what the condition of the soil is. And so all that's been done, as far as I know. And there's earth movers on the site, because they've got to move, because there's quite a large, whatever the word is, there's quite a big difference in height from the back to the front. And that's got to be sort of levelled out and sorted out and stuff.
We're not going to have an Underhill-like pitch then that's 10 foot higher than
ours is a bit sloped, isn't it?
It is actually, yeah. Everyone keeps telling me that. And then because I sit in the Kennelf end.
Because it's the other end it goes down to, doesn't it?
You don't really see it in the Kennelf end. But then when you sit in the main stand, you're like, what's going on here?
It's not as bad as Newcastle, is it?
No, that is very bad. There was one, I can't remember where there was one. There's like a bank in the corner of where the pitch is, so it literally tells you how far the pitch is below the.
That wasn't Barnet, was it?
It may well have been Barnet's old ground. Yeah, it was. Very, very, very weird actually. But so no, everything is moving in the right direction on Power Court. But let's be honest, no one really wants to know that people are drilling a hole in a bit of ground. Everyone can save themselves time and not reveal that. But all plans are in place and ready to go forward to get their subsequent approval. And once they're approved, full steam will be ahead. As I say, I've been past past Power Court earlier on, and there definitely were people working in there. Don't think they were just there for a good time. I think they were actually working hard. So Yep. Going well with regards to Power Court.
It's good. One of the other things I think that has to be applauded is it's happened this week, but got announced last week, I think, was the Warm Spaces initiative.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant.
Kenilworth Road. And I mean, there's been, ever since you guys have been at the helm at the club, there's so many great off the pitch initiatives that I could reel them off forever that I've just like resonate with what I appreciate, and that's one of them. Obviously, a long time ago, was the first English club to bring in the real living wage, that sort of thing, is one that always stands out. But this one particularly because we've just gone through a really, really quite vicious cold snap, and we're still in winter, and it's a great thing to.
I think overall, I think the community work is tremendous, and I think it's beginning to show bear fruit too. I think that there's a lot more. I think perhaps the Premier League is what's helped more than anything. But I think the community has warmed to us a lot more than it had before. And, some of the communities are actually now much more involved with us than they were. And I think more comfortable with us. I think perhaps that's the thing, really. And what's nice to see, I mean, I do quite a bit of bits and pieces that, you go and talk to Asian groups and things like that. And they haven't been in the past particularly football orientated, but they are becoming much more. Someone told me that the Wembley game was had the most Asian people ever at a Wembley final.
Wow.
I don't know. I haven't got the evidence, the proof of that. But
I must admit, I see a lot more Asian people in the home ends at Kenilworth Road than I've ever
you
done.
get more wanting to be there, I mean, I talked a lot, so people ring up, can I have a ticket, sort of thing. But it's great that they're much more interested, I think, because that's the real target, isn't it, in the community?
And that's the profile of the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's what it does, particularly for where the stadium is currently.
Yeah.
But they, I think that the support's been there for a long while for people that liked football, let's say, and certainly we all remember after the Sunderland semi-final, the drumming that went on down in Berry Park straight after the game, and the sort of
that was brilliant.
And then the tour, the bus top tour through,
that
started at the club and went through Berry Park and got delayed quite significantly because of the partying that was going on in Berry Park. It was wonderful to see. So it's
and a lot of our and like we were talking about earlier, the under-21 cup games, which we've got space in, we can invite people in, and we have done. We've been quite a lot of the local residents, local schools and stuff get invited in to see, because a lot of them, I was surprised, had never been inside Kenilworth Road. And that's terrible when you live 100 yards away or something, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, congratulations on that initiative anyway, because it's, very much needed. I think the club's always been about more than football anyway, hasn't it? And those sorts of things really shine through and show it. So
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the charity work as well, really, isn't it? I mean, sort of Lisa had just been on her tour and raised money for charities, and, the Supporters Trust are heavily linked with Bed's Prostate Cancer Support Group, obviously in line with Mick, who's now patron of that. And
we've got cabins, I think, on Power Court for the homeless with Noah recently. So that, somewhere for people to sleep. And so all of that is in an attempt to help in that sort of area.
And
that's our charity of the year, Noah.
In a way, that means more than football, doesn't it? I mean, we all love the game of football. Our lives are all about the game of football. But if football, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we saw last month just how much football really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So for the club to do these things outside of football, it's testament to the club. And yes, I know people will say, well, yeah, they got lots of money, they should be doing these things, but they're not all doing it. And for the fact that our club are doing it whilst still trying to fight their way on the pitch as well, it just speaks volumes of what we do and how we do it as an organisation.
We're Luton, aren't we? And the board are all bar two are Lutonians, and so that's it. It's part of our DNA. We are part of the town, and we can't be anything else. Whereas that's not always true, and particularly the Premier League, with the money thing. It's not always about the community now. It's about tourism or whatever. It's not necessarily local. It's international.
Oh yeah.
And that's, I think I prefer it when it's a bit local.
I mean, I come out of the Brighton away game that you mentioned earlier, and I thought I'd landed in Tokyo. No disrespect to them, but there were so many Matoma fans there. Come out of Chelsea, and I couldn't move for someone without an American accent.
Yep.
And it's like, what happened to our game? Where's our game gone? But then I come out of Kenilworth Road, and it's all us. It's just all it's people that you've grown up with.
But it won't when we move. I mean, look where we are. We've got an airport a few hundred yards away, and so it probably change.
But I don't think that should be discouraged anyway, because you've got to fill a 23,000 seater stadium when that happens. But also, you've got to attract more fans all the time. Really, it's part and parcel of it,
but not at the expense of the community, and not at the expense of your what's the word? Your ethical position. I think
no,
it's important to be what you are and not let it change you. Where I think it's changed.
Well, I said on the review we did of the Bolton game that one of the biggest legacies for me of the 2020 era is that when you walk around town now, you see little kids in Luton shirts.
Yeah.
20 years ago, 25 years ago, or the time that me and James were at school, I was literally the only person in a Luton shirt, and I was looked at, why are you wearing a Luton shirt? When Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal shirts were everywhere you see. Now, you can go, wherever you go, as a little kid in a Luton shirt, the amount of youngsters that are at home games, it's just fantastic. What you guys have done for the next generation of Luton fans after me. I mean, I took my youngest niece to the Bolton game. Tickets were only £1. That wasn't why. As I said at the time, I am not a cheapskate. That wasn't why we took her to that game. It's impossible to get tickets for Premier League game, and that's absolutely right. That's how it should be. But also, if she just wanted to sit there and after a while she got bored and she wanted to watch something on my phone or something like that, for the sake of £1, it doesn't really matter too much. As it turned out, she loved it. 0-0 draw. She loved it. I'm like, well, hang about, what's this member of my family loving a 0-0 draw for? Because I'm all for the 4-3s and 3-2s and everything. But I saw her again at the weekend because we didn't have a game, and she was like, Uncle Kev, when can I come to the football with you again? And I was like, well, if we can beat Everton and get a home draw, maybe we can do something for the next round of the Cup.
What did she like about it?
Everything I liked.
It's the atmosphere.
The noises, the
smell and the noise.
Yeah, they're all different, It's like, I don't think there's anywhere else where she'd go and, obviously we buy her a hot dog or a burger or whatever and a hot drink or whatever. I mean, she had to have a hot drink that day. We all did. It was bloody freezing, wasn't it? But just the thing that made me fall in love was just the click of them turnstiles when you walk in. I mean, when I first walked in, it was the membership card in those white turnstiles at the Kenilworth end, and they had a right old clank to them. And if it was cold, you had to give them a right old shove to get the things moving. Thankfully it's more modern now, and you just zip your ticket through and away you go, sort of thing. But it's those noises, it's the atmosphere. Songs were being sung. She loves the Ross Barkley song already. She goes home singing "Ain't Nobody," and it's just, she's only 5, and she wants to go to another game, and
brilliant.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And it's because of you guys giving tickets that either myself or my sister can afford for her. And like I say, if she didn't get into it, we haven't really lost anything. Whereas if you're paying some of these grounds, they want sort of 15-20 quid for even a youngster to go in. That would have been a different story. So what you guys have done for the next generation is just fantastic.
Yes, look how old we are, you see.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've mentioned it
before.
before.
I remember about those membership cards. I found mine recently, and when I was clearing out an old cupboard, still got it somewhere.
I haven't got mine. I think mine must have snapped as it was going through the slot thing one day. But
I had to have a shilling. You don't even know what a shilling is. And there's a turnstile man. Here's my shilling.
I mean,
you got Thrupham's change.
you talk about our generations. You just hired the first Luton manager that's actually younger than me, and I've only just got over the fact that players are younger than me. Now you're employing managers that are younger than me, and it's very, very worrying.
And better looking as well.
But that went without saying. But yeah, more than welcome.
He's an international sensation since the football's been.
Isn't he just? Yeah. Must be a bit embarrassing, wasn't it? I think. I don't know. Perhaps not.
They don't always get my name right, so that helps me out a little bit. Can we move?
Did you think we were talking about you?
Can we move away from Luton for a minute, and can we look at football as a wider whole? We spoke about an independent regulator in our last deep dive, and the fact that it's been included in the King's Speech, and it looks like that legislation's being written. I believe it's being written this month or next month, with regards to an independent regulator. Is it realistic, an independent regulator?
I think it's going to be essential, because I think it's very, when you think there's, in the Football League alone, you've got 92 clubs, and the difference, even in the Premier League, you've got 20 clubs, and the difference between the top and the bottom is just ginormous. And they all have a different outlook on it and a different requirement. So how you get those people to all agree with each other, the compromise is what it'll have to be, but it's sometimes hard to see where it's going to come from. And I think it'll go to the wire, I think. And whether it'll need, whether the Premier League at the moment has got at least some, not control, wrong word, some influence with the regulator. And I hope that that continues, because you don't want someone who doesn't know. A regulator could be, outside the industry, trying to control the industry, which wouldn't work really. So it's a difficult one, and it's already running over time really, because it should have happened already. But as I say, it's a very difficult business, and there is so much money involved that getting people to, and everybody in the Premier League is having to give up something to the lower leagues, which I think they want to do. They don't want to do it in a way that will put them at risk. And I think that's why the balance is so difficult to get to. You've got some brilliant people. I mean, you'd never wish the job of the executive of the Premier League, because they're all the clubs are not in the Football League. Club directors are on the board. Premier League, there are no club directors. It's all independent directors, and the clubs are the shareholders, who are controlled or managed by those, or supported by that executive. And their job is verging on impossible sometimes. I mean, it's a very professional business. And you couldn't be more so, I don't think. And there's some very, very good people, but they still have that hierarchy, which is difficult to handle.
I suppose from looking from the outside, and I guess this might be a view that many fans, maybe from outside the Premier League, have, maybe some in the Premier League. I don't think necessarily applies to Luton necessarily, but the clubs that have always been there and established, that it almost seems like turkeys voting for Christmas to get an independent regulator in.
Well, they're not voting for them. I mean, that's going to have it, aren't they? I mean, and I don't think it's what they want. And it's because there's going to be one that they're trying to get some kind of deal done before that comes in. But, then how close to the line do you take it? And what do you think the regulator's going to regulate? And the problem again with the Premier League is, again, there's so much money in it. It's so important that litigation, you've already seen litigation involved in various things, is how long will it get drawn out for? It's not an easy business. And I think unless you're in it, you don't realise quite how complicated it is to sort. I mean, everybody wants it to happen, but really not at their expense. You know, it is the right thing to do. But if we're going to do this, they're going to have to do something. So everybody has to sacrifice, or everybody has to have some sort of semblance of control. And everyone's got to agree to that. All 92 clubs have got to agree to something. That's impossible, really, isn't it? Well, not impossible, because it's not. It will happen, but it'll happen in probably a difficult compromise.
Is that why PSR and FFP is so much in the spotlight these days, with a regulator sort of on the horizon, however far away he or she is? Is FFP suddenly becoming more important so that football can show this regulator, whoever he or she may be, that actually not everything needs regulating? It can regulate some of it itself.
Well, it'll have to be agreed all the way down, because the funding now all basically comes from the Premier League and broadcast. Everything's going to have to filter down from there. So whatever the Premier League agrees to do, everyone else is going to have to agree to do to a different degree. Then what happens? With the regulator now, it's not straightforward, is it? I don't know, but what you do know is that litigation is going to be involved everywhere. If we already know that Everton are appealing against their points deduction, we already know that Man City are obviously doing something because they've been charged but not punished, so they're obviously fighting it legally. And there are others that are in the, coming up as well. I don't know what the Forest situation is, but so you've got all those things, and we know what Americans particularly are like with litigation. You can string things out for years and years and years, appeal and appeal and appeal, and take the appeal to High Court, and it can be, if you haven't got what's the word, a strong enough will, or a strong enough I think will's the right word, really, to look after, to protect football, which not everyone does, because sometimes it's about money. Then it's going to be very hard to come to grips with it. That's probably not put it very well, but
I think that's the way it feels to most people, because they'll see Everton have got charged once, 10 points docked, charged again, and Forest as well. But everybody's also saying, well, that's happening to them. But what about Manchester City, for example, just to take that example? Because 115 charges is a hell of a lot of charges. But if they've got the world's best, most highest paid lawyers on the case, which they of course they have, they've got a nation state behind them, then it will muddy the waters somewhat. That's a thing they're talking about, nearly a decade's worth of charges, allegations. But they could go on and win everything for this season, next season, however long that goes on.
They can string it out forever, couldn't they?
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that doesn't really sit right with people.
But what's the only answer to that is an independent regulator forcing things to happen. And then what happens? They fight them in the courts, I suppose, or leave the jurisdiction, or I don't know what you do, but it's not a happy situation, is it? Really?
No,
it's not happy from a competitive point of view, or you don't want that in football. You just want to play football, don't you? You just want, and you don't mind. If you're a rich club, you should be able to spend the money on players and stuff. If you're a rich club, everyone expects you to be bigger than Luton, and you should be able to do it. But it shouldn't get embroiled in all this stuff. It just spoils it, I think.
Well, I suppose one thing we've spoken about before is how it's almost baffling to us, considering where we've been.
Yeah.
that you could be in the top flight. For Everton, have always been in the top flight. They're the only club not to have been relegated and be in so much trouble given the amount of money that's available.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really.
It's easy well, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where if you've been in the Premier League a long time, your cost base is huge because you've improved your squad and you've paid more money and salaries have gone up. So you need that Premier League money to maintain that standard. And that's the problem, because then if you struggle, you're struggling financially as well as struggling because you struggle on the field. There's a difference in terms of merit rake in the Premier League because you get more the higher you go. You get more again if you're in Europe. The difference is quite large. From us to Liverpool, revenue wise, it would be about 400%, I suppose, if you're in Europe and everything. And if you win it, it's even more than that. But so, it's not an easy thing. And anyone who thinks, it'll get solved by a regulator, it won't, because something else will something else will happen which will put that into difficulty as well.
I suppose that sort of brings it back to, from a Luton perspective, prudent management of a football club, because we're all fairly certain, and I hope this doesn't happen, and we're all confident that it won't. But if it did happen and yet got relegated, that you probably wouldn't be in the same strife as some other Premier League clubs.
No, absolutely not, because we haven't built that up anyway, and that's what parachutes are for, is to help you if you get relegated. And we haven't pushed the boat out. We haven't done a Nottingham Forest. We haven't pushed the boat out like that. It may work for them. Who knows? But it's a big risk. You saw in the accounts last year, I think you were talking about earlier, I think we made a decision in the January to have a small punt because we were up at, we were in range of playoffs. We had a small punt, £5 or £6 million punt, which we did, and it worked, which was really, it was marvellous, and a few other bits and pieces. So that's what you did, it's what we did. But that's minor in comparison to, what they do, what they've done.
I mean, if you have a successful punt like that, next time you have a punt, can you let me have the lottery numbers? I'll reinvest some of the winnings, don't worry. That was absolutely fantastic. $5 million punt that lands. Am I right in saying in the region of 100 million for being in the Premier League?
Yeah.
So,
Minimum.
Not a bad investment, is it? 5 million to land 100 million, 20 to 1 shot for having a go. I guess, you say...
For missing a penalty. Yeah.
For missing a penalty, yeah, and then the poor old bloke gets destroyed in the media by Troy Deeney of all people. God's gift to football. Not. You say about Nottingham Forest, and it may or may not work out for them, but they're obviously already panicking, aren't they? They've sacked a manager because they're well within their knowledge that relegation is the last thing that can happen to them, and. Yep. I guess that puts us in a competitive, good place. That we're not having to panic. We're literally going about our work as gradual improvements, whereas these other teams are panicking of fear of failure, so to speak. We don't really have that fear of failure.
No, we don't. No, we don't. I can't say any more than that. We don't.
No, but and I think that's something that we can use to our advantage over these last sort of 17, 18 games. When we're going into these, towards the end of the season, there's a few teams that we're going to be playing that could be in and around us. When we're going into those games, we don't play Everton. We play Everton towards the end of the season. Yep. If they're still in and around us, they're funding a new stadium that I believe they're going into next season. If they've got Championship football looking over their shoulder, they are seriously in fear of failure, and we're going into that game. Well, come on then, let's have it. We've got nothing to lose. I hate that saying, and I shouldn't say it because obviously we have, but in comparison, that's got to be something that helps us over the remainder of the season in these kind of games.
Yeah, you want a few people to be pressurised, I suppose, don't you?
But that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, everyone's like, Sheffield United, Burnley, Luton, they're relegated. We were relegated before a ball was kicked, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they
We
were
were bottom before a ball was kicked.
bottom before a ball was kicked, absolutely. And I've seen experts and pundits and things say, well, these clubs, they've got it easy this season because the bottom three are relegated, so they can just have a season of doing what they want because, you know, they're not going to go down, so they don't need to panic and all this, that and the other. And all of a sudden, Luton have won 4 games and they're suddenly right up these teams' backsides, and the panic's happened, hasn't it? Forest are panicking. All talk of Roy Hodgson being on dodgy ground, and there was all sorts of banners appearing in Crystal Palace away end on Saturday. There's panic going on at Crystal Palace. It's only going to be a matter of time before a panic goes on at Everton if they're not successful with their appeal. Brentford were relying, they basically put the house on even Tony, haven't they, pretty much at Brentford.
Oh, the chairman was saying yesterday that he didn't sleep much before the Nottingham Forest game.
I can imagine, yeah.
And that was an important win for them.
I mean,
It was, yeah.
they've put so much, I mean, Sky bigged up Ivan Toney like he was Pele and Maradona combined, but they really have put
done a bit of Maradona-esque work with the free kick. As well.
Yeah, he did.
He did. Wilko sent me a video of that on WhatsApp on Saturday. Actually, yeah. I'll ask you in another podcast whether that's good play or cheating.
Okay.
We'll come on to that. Away from Wilko, we won't get him into trouble for that one. But we've got a lot of teams on edge now, haven't we? And that was the first thing in the survival battle, wasn't it? Get a few teams sweating and looking over their shoulder.
Really, are there? There's only 2 or 3 really, aren't there?
Right now there is, but there's still the potential for some to drop back in still, isn't there? And you know, the Crystal Palaces of this world aren't clear of us.
No.
And
Brentford and Forest and Everton. Who else?
there's still no...
Wolves have gone, haven't they?
I think Wolves have gone. Bournemouth I'm still not sure about. I thought they'd gone, but then I watched them on Sunday and they were bloody terrible. They were really terrible against Liverpool. Okay, against Liverpool, but I compare us against
first
Liverpool.
half, but then Liverpool decimated after the break, I think. But they've got enough good feeling to maybe get out of it. But I think,
yeah, I don't want Bournemouth to go down anyway after the way they were with us.
I think
last
you
night.
only need one anyway, because all the statistics say that Sheffield United and Burnley haven't amassed enough points historically. No one has managed to stay up with the points they've currently got after this many games.
Oh.
Whereas Luton have passed that threshold. So you only need one team to slip up enough, and then you can survive.
Or Everton not to get their appeal.
Yeah, or
Mind
Forest.
you, they're a better side than some of the others, aren't they?
They are, but
I think.
they had that bounce, didn't they, when they got their point deduction, that siege mentality bounce. But they've stopped now, haven't they? They've not really gone anywhere recently. They've not gone any further clear of us. We just can't catch the buggers, can we? Every time we look like we can go and catch them, they go and pull out a result that keeps them away from us. So
Yeah.
someone help us out, please. That was a big goal at Burnley, wasn't it? That equalising goal.
Yeah.
I think when we look back at the end of the season, we're going to look back at that goal, which was a goal. It absolutely was a
No
goal. We
question.
covered it, and
I agree.
It's now been on the Howard Webb Fancy Dan show as well, hasn't it? And
Days after we talked about it, though, so you know where to go.
it was almost like we were locked into VAR the way that we talked about that. But when we look back on the end of the season, that point, that goal, it's going to be a big point and a big goal, isn't it? I felt it on the night. I come away from Burnley. I'm never particularly happy walking away from places like Burnley, but I was like, that is a big goal. It's one of the biggest goals I can remember us scoring, really.
We were never in doubt there, but it was going to be it should have been. It was right. It was the right decision.
Yeah, I think it was. Just on VAR, are you a fan?
No.
No? Referee's decision?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone after the Burnley game, everyone was blaming VAR. Sorry, lads, but if VAR weren't around, it's still a goal because he gave the goal.
Yeah.
So they don't need to blame VAR on that one.
It does spoil the game, doesn't it? I mean, you can't. It's like then
That was
no one celebrates.
no. That was the first time
really
that we've
weird.
had it where I've genuinely wanted to celebrate, but I haven't brought myself to celebrate. And I had my sister with me at that game, and she was relentlessly, is it going to get disallowed? Is it going to get disallowed? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's not, because I'm pretty sure what I've seen is the keeper's run into Elijah, not getting the ball, and Carlton's headed it in.
Mm.
And if that is what I've seen, then it's not going to get disallowed. But what was it, 4 minutes? I mean, that's long enough. And actually, it's good that they're trialing something, aren't they, in Portugal or somewhere in the world where VAR's actually, the decision's going to be
broadcast in
the stadium to everyone. So that's got to be an
that's the
improvement
least
to it.
that's got to happen, I think. If it's going to stay, that's the experience that's got to improve.
Yeah, you need somehow to be AI or something, don't you? You need people not involved somehow. Because whenever there are people involved, you've got bias, haven't you?
Yeah, no, that is true.
You can't help it. I'm not saying it's intentional bias, but everybody's biased. Everybody has a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, no, that is true. Yeah, you've had all these VAR cameras installed, and you've had that iPad installed, and no bugger's gone and looked at it. Has someone been over and checked that it's still there, just to make sure?
They haven't used it, have they?
No.
No.
Oh, we're 10 home games in. They might as well have sat up in your office and just been looking at it on there. It's got no use whatsoever. It's the most unused iPad that's ever been produced. Actually, my fear is that he'll go over and look at it, and either it's gone or it just doesn't work because it's given up the ghost. It's just, I've not been used.
Yeah.
I'm not working no more. I've gone to sleep. We need to reset it or whatever it is. Like, it's just...
No, I don't like it, but I suppose it's not going to go away, is it? So we just have to make it better.
And broadcasting the decision inside the stadium is the first way of doing that, isn't it? Because fans know nothing. I mean, fans know nothing anyway, but no, fans know nothing about what's going on.
If you could show like they do on TV, if you could show the lines for offside, or if you could show the event to fans in a stadium, maybe that would help. I don't know.
It must be possible. I mean,
it's got to be
you're
possible.
A fan of the NFL, and they do it better. Rugby do it better. Cricket do it better.
Rugby do it a lot better.
Yeah, so much better. And it's just all you had to do was go to any of those sports and just say, how do you do it? Let's copy it. And they've tried to do their own thing, and it's just a disaster.
But it's like anything. It's like timing. I mean, this business of we now have real time, so you can have some games where it's 12 minutes. They give you 4, and it's just
that Chelsea game was the worst.
There ought to be independent timekeepers, shouldn't there?
Yeah, that Chelsea game was the worst for it. How we come up with 6 minutes in that second half, I have absolutely no idea. There were 7 subs to start off with. That was the worst one. Actually, the Bolton first game as well, he put 3 minutes up in the second half of that, and the goalkeeper in time wasting for God knows how many more minutes than that.
He was as bored as we were. That's why we go.
It may well have been. My niece was loving it. She was like, "What, 3 hours? Happy days!" But no, it's you're right. It is something that hopefully that gets improved over the course of things. Couple more things I want to touch on just before we let you go, Wilko, because we've taken up a lot of your time. We've spoken a lot about the players on this podcast, about our coaches, about our board and everything else. Can I just have a word for our medical team? Because they went through something that was beyond anything that anyone would expect of them. And yes, I know it's their job, but no one would expect anyone to have to do a job of that kind under that intense pressure and scrutiny. So a word for those, really, because
they're amazing.
That was an incredible
they are amazing.
Situation.
And the new doc is great, and obviously Simon and Chris, and they're a great team. Great team.
And obviously that's the incident that, of course, I'm talking about the Tom Lockyer incident at Bournemouth. That's the incident that highlighted them. But when you actually think of it, Wilko, we don't get many injuries these days, and the injuries that we do get, players tend to come back from them bloody quickly, and that's also down to the medical and sports science departments. And obviously, there's been a lot of investment in that area.
A lot of equipment, yeah.
Because where we might lack in financial resources on the pitch, we can make up for with what we have in the background, so to speak. Those guys are doing an absolutely terrific job. I mean,
well, improvements in equipment, improvements in the gym is phenomenal. And the other thing about those guys, the medical guys, is that they really are part of the squad. I mean, they are, probably they're the guys that are closest to the players in some way, because players are always in there having a massage or a rub down or whatever, and they probably get more of the players' true feelings and problems and everything than the coaches sometimes do. So they're a really important group of people and great guys.
I should have probably pre-warned you this, but is there any word on Tom? Is he doing well?
I've heard no more than he's recovering. It'll take a long time, and he's working towards it. And
yeah, I mean, we're not even worried about him from a football point of view. To be honest, we just hope that the guy's okay.
It's important. Yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah, that he's happy, healthy, and lives a full life. Rather, I mean, we were all at that day, and we won't forget it as much as we want to.
I'll never forget it.
We won't forget it. Hats off to everyone. Bournemouth, Philip Billing, the person who got to him first. We've said it already, but hats off to everyone who worked.
Even up in the boardroom, everybody was in tears and hugging each other and stuff, and it was just different.
Yeah.
It was lovely in some ways.
Yeah. I'm sure the two clubs will do something when we go back for the rearranged game, and I'm sure there'll be something coming out on that. The last one, Wilko, the academy.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say the first team had kicked on from the academy, just the speed of improvement in the league position of the first team. But I get the impression that the academy's catching up, even though the first team's still improving at an alarming rate. Obviously, we've had Joe Johnson go to the Under-18 World Cup, which is a magnificent achievement for our academy. The Under-21 results are positive. The Under-18 results are positive. It all seems to be going in the right direction, academy-wise. Are you comfortable with where the academy is?
Recruitment has been improved, and I agree with you. I think both of them. I think the 18s. I see the 18s probably more than anything, and the improvement is noticeable if you ever go and watch them. And it's the same kind of thing as we were talking about with the first team. Pace and first touch, and just playing good football. Not some of them you play against, and it's that like I said to Rob that time, he said, "What do you think of it?" I said, "Well, it's sort of piss about, whoosh." The early days of the Premier League, it was. Yeah. It was. When we played, I think it was Brighton was the first one, and it was, and I don't like that. I don't like that football at all. But they've started to be really decent. I mean, we played. Who was it? We played on Brentford. We played Brentford on Saturday, and it was really good. I think we won 5-0, and it was really good football. And there's some players there that you think they'll be all right.
I know a number of them have looked up to Andros Townsend, haven't they? As in particular at the training ground, and Andros really, really loves one or two in particular, doesn't he? Really, really rates. Is it Jake Berger that he really, really likes?
I like Berger, yeah. He's under 21s, yeah.
Under 21, sorry, yeah.
I think he's captain, isn't he now?
He is, yeah. For the academy team to have Ross and Andros to look up to, as much as they're doing for us on the first team field, that's great for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is, because they can see. Well, I suppose it makes them feel as though that they can improve because they can see what the first team's done, and they are too. I mean, there's no doubt that they are improving. I mean, Paul Ballantyne and I probably see more of them than most people do on the board, and you notice that that improvement. And 21s, I think, struggled a bit more because it's sort of
it's in between,
funny,
isn't it?
And they don't get that until recently. They don't get that much football, and that's the other problem. Is that fringe players in the first team don't get any football because most of them don't play in the 21s, which they can. So there's that. There is still that problem, and we still need to be in Cat 2, and we still need to get into the Premier League games program, which hopefully we'll do next year. So then you've got, and you're competing with your peers, and that's what they need, rather than sometimes you're either playing someone that's quite good. I mean, Brentford, to be fair, on Saturday, they've only just restarted their academy because they've had to, because they're now in the Premier League. So they're not, the levels are difficult to judge because they're different.
And I think that's the thing in the Premier League Cup, isn't it? With the under-21s.
Well, we've lost them all so far.
We've taken some sort of losses in that one, but that is literally what it is, isn't it? Academy foundations and size and everything, and we're
But last year we went to Chelsea. I think it was last year we went to Chelsea and beat them 3-1 at their place, under 21s, and their keeper had cost 25 million.
Yeah.
You know, so, but no, I think it's going really well, and it's important though that we get into Cat 2.
Yeah,
and get the dome built and get some more land, some more space for the training ground, and then it'll be very helpful.
Is that all in the pipeline?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's good to hear that the academy's going well, because obviously as Luton fans we love nothing more than academy products, and it was great to see Joe play for the first team at the end of last season and out in Germany, and you know the games that he's played this season as well, and of course to represent Luton on a global scale as well is just fantastic for him, and shame they didn't go further than what they did. But
I think Jaden Luca's gone out on loan, hasn't he? And he's very highly rated. I know Rob likes him a lot, and Zach Nelson.
Zach, yeah.
It must also be, in terms of longevity, and the future must be an important thing to develop anyway, because if you're not going to be able to compete in the transfer market against big clubs, but you want to stay at the higher echelons, then the next best thing is to make your own players.
Yeah, but it's ever so difficult, isn't it? I mean, that move up is quite hard, because you're always, it's like you go and buy young players, which is what we did last year, and then you suddenly, if you've got some decent young players, but they're, there's a bit of a gap still, like the Louis Watsons and the John McAtees and all those guys who have, they've got to play football. So you're always going to have, you're a bit of a mini Chelsea, got them out on loan somewhere, before. Will they ever will they ever make that step up? That's the problem, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's a numbers game, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you invest a lot of time in a lot of youngsters and one of them makes it through, that
we potentially, that's it, isn't it? You
could be the thing.
1 out of 100 or whatever it is. I don't know. Who was the last one? JJ and JJ now.
If you're JJ in our academy, you're laughing, aren't you? Anyone else? No, I joke. No, the academy are doing great things. If you want to watch the under-21s, actually, they're in action against Colchester next Friday night at Kenilworth Road. Was due to be the last of the Premier League Cup games, wasn't it? But the Leeds game got postponed recently because of the weather, so there'll be another one after that. But the Colchester game, tickets are on sale now, I believe. Season ticket holders can get in for free, but you do need to obtain a ticket. So I thoroughly recommend going and watching the under-21s and the under-18s if you are around and about the place when Luton don't have a game. And hey, we very rarely play Saturdays at 3:00 these days anyway. So chances are you will be free on a day that the under-18s play. They are well worth watching, well worth supporting, because they are the future of our football club. Wilko, we've taken up so much of your time. Not going to take up too much more. Just what are you looking forward to between now and the rest of the season? End of the season, rather.
Oh, okay, I don't know. I suppose just continuing. Yeah. Perhaps a little cup run would be nice, wouldn't it? Nice to be at Everton again.
There's this historical, we're going to preview the Everton game in another podcast, but there's this historical connotation with that particular tie, isn't there? Everton versus Luton and semi-finals and misdemeanors. And
I think I saw them in the cup in 1960. I think it was 62. Might have been 63. Might have even been 64. But we went up, first time I'd ever been to Goodison, and we went up there in an old A40 van, and it was the great Everton team, and they beat us 5-1, I think it was. But it was a wonderful day out. Great stuff, because we were on our way down then. We were I think we were probably 3rd division, I can't remember. But yeah.
It would be nice to beat Everton for a second time.
To do it again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be nice to beat them for a second time and have a cup run, and who knows, maybe even European football awaits us at the end of it. That's far down the line from where we are now. But Wilko, it's been great to have you back on the podcast. We really enjoy having you on, getting your insights from inside the game as well as your thoughts as a fan and owner of Luton Town. We appreciate all of the things that you've shared with us on this episode.
Great to see you both, and I've enjoyed it.
And hopefully, if we're celebrating another season of Premier League football, we can get you on sometime in the summer, and we can rejoice how good it's been and how good it will be again.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. That's it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks very much again to Wilko for joining us. Thanks to James for keeping me company as well. And thanks to you for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers now. We're within touching distance now. And as we've promised, there will be a huge giveaway that we will do once we've hit that 1,000 mark. I won't stretch it too much further in terms of a teaser, other than the man to my right is involved. I say no more. So as soon as we can get to 1,000, we'll give you the full details of that. Thanks for watching and listen. Thanks to the Hightown Club for staging this podcast. Thanks to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang, as always, for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs you see on set. Wilko, you've been fantastic. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And well, come on, you Hatters.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul. We're Luton people.